Hello, I'm back. I am not wearing my teeth, and I probably will not be wearing them during any more of my videos that I am reading. They're fine for short videos. They're fine for going to church and not having to talk a whole lot. Um, or going, to places for short amounts of time where I don't have to talk much. But reading aloud with my dentures in, I don't know why, but it makes me extremely nauseous. And in my last video from last night, Chapter 1 of the book I'm reading to y'all, A Look at Life from a Deer Stand by Chapman. While I was reading, I became very ill because of my dentures. I don't know if it's the strain and stress of wearing them or because I'm not really that used to it. I've only had them for a little over a year, I think. But I just don't really care for them. I'm more comfortable without them. I'm happier without them. And I really don't care what anybody thinks of me. So if you don't like it, it's not like anybody's really watching these videos anyway. So I don't have a lot of confidence there. Anyway, this is the other shirt that I bought from that nonprofit group. All I need is Jesus and coffee. It's also very beautiful, very well done. It probably looks backwards on the video, but oh well. Okay, tonight we are going to read the second chapter in this book. I don't know why necklaces always do that. They always turn themselves around. Stressful. All right, well, let's, once I find it, we'll jump right in. Okay, here it is. Chapter 2 of A Look at Life from a Deer Stand, Hunting for the Meaning of Life by Chapman. Okay. The Ultimate Sacrifice. If you are a serious hunter like me, I know you have come to the understanding the word sacrifice. The list of things that can also be said for mothers or parents in general. We make big sacrifices. Anyway, the list of things one must give up in order to fill the big game tag attached to the hunting license is significant. Yet, because of the thrill of a challenge, deer hunters press on and willingly pay that price. It's a form of rigid self-discipline that has its rewards. However, a problem can arise when other people are pulled into the river of our sacrifices. I vividly recall one hunt when I was a teenager that two gentlemen had the right to regret. It involved the father and the brother of a girl I would eventually marry. I met Annie in 1963 in junior high school. I was 13 years old and she was 12. It was love at first sight for Annie. Later on, at 16 and 15 years of age, we were in different grades, but we did share one class together, the school choir. One November day in the chorus room, Annie began telling me about the deer her brother had taken on their dad's farm. When I perked up, she was delighted. Little did I know that she had a crush on me and that my immediate interest in the deer story was probably a key that could unlock love's door. She hinted that I might be welcome to hunt on the farm. So I seized the moment and asked her if her brother might be willing to put me in the stand where he had experienced success. Annie responded with a cautious yes. Not wanting to miss a golden opportunity, I set a time to be there and spent the rest of the week dreaming about the upcoming hunt. Sleep is definitely high on the list of things that hunters sacrifice. When the next Saturday finally came, the alarm roused me from my warm bed at 2:30 a.m., and I was out the door and on my way to the Williams farm by 3:30. The real reason for my early departure was I was afraid I wouldn't be able to find their farm in the pre-dawn darkness, and it would have been tragic to have missed such a grand hunting opportunity. Therefore, giving up my sleep in order to arrive there at the right time seemed the safe thing to do. As it turned out, I drove up their lane around 3:45 a.m. Not wanting to disturb anyone that early, I sat in the car for a few minutes trying to decide whether or not to go to the front door. Everything seemed so calm, I hated to be a bother. I was hoping a light would come on and signal me that they were aware of my presence. Still, no one stirred. Being driven, however, by the prospect of a large buck passing under the tree stand, I cast aside politeness, exited the car, and walked up to the porch and approached the door. I gave it an old-fashioned knuckle knock. My husband will probably hear that and freak out. Where was I instantly regretted doing that as soon as I did it. Nothing happened. I waited a few cold minutes, then tried again. No response. I rapped one more time with vigor, and aha! The light snapped on. About a minute later, I heard the locks turn from the inside. The door slowly opened to reveal an older man who I assumed was Annie's father. He looked a little bewildered and rather concerned. Feeling pretty awkward, I quickly introduced myself and felt relieved to see him put the pieces together and realize that I was Annie's guest. I said, "Annie told me that your son has agreed to take me to his favorite tree stand this morning. I sure do appreciate it, and I'm ready to go." He gave me a "do you know how early it is" look and then said, "Have a seat and I'll get my son up." In a few minutes, a younger man came into the living room. He seemed like the quieter type and was rubbing his eyes. He simply said, "Let's go." I would be exasperated as well, buddy, if somebody woke me up that early. Well, actually, somebody does every night. My little ones. Justifiably so, Annie's brother was not too pleased to partake in my sacrifices, and regretfully, in all my excitement to bag a big one, I was unable to detect his suffering. Sorry, I lost my place. Comfort is another item that hunters trade for the taste of venison. Annie's dad had briefly given up a warm bed to answer the door. However, his son and I were about to make a greater sacrifice. The temperature was around 15 degrees. Yeah, you wouldn't catch me dead outside at 15 degrees. Psh. And the wind chill put it in a dangerously frigid range. Any sweat we worked up as we trudged along in silence immediately froze on our clothing. Our lungs also paid a price as we climbed the hill towards the ridge. We had left the house around 4 a.m., and by 4:30 we were standing at the base of the tree looking up at the stand. After making sure that I had safely climbed the wooden steps that were nailed to the forks of the tree and was standing securely on the plywood platform, my host left me in the dark. As I watched the dancing beam of his flashlight disappear into the distance, I had no idea what I was about to face a near-death experience. Being somewhat naive in my career as an outdoorsman, I had not yet learned an effectiveness of layering my clothes. When I had tumbled out of bed that morning, I had thrown on one of the thickest sweatshirts could find, 2 pairs of pants, a coat, and a pair of my dad's thin work gloves. Oof. In those days, blaze orange had not yet been introduced to the hunting community, so hunters wore reds and other bright colors. I knew that safety was a factor, so I did the best I could. I borrowed my dad's yellow rain suit, which fit loosely over my clothing, and at least I felt safer. However, I had not counted on one problem. Yeah, if somebody showed up to my door dressed like that, if a teenage boy showed up to my door dressed like that at 3 o'clock in the morning, I would probably call the police or the nut house. They're like, hey, there's a crazy kid here. You need to come get him. No, something wrong with this boy. However, I had not counted on one problem. The frigid air made the plastic brittle, and every time I moved, I sounded like breaking glass. So I had to remain as motionless as possible. Consequently, the warming effect of moving around could not be enjoyed, and I quickly became quite cold and miserable. The frightening thing was that it was around 5 a.m., nearly 2 hours before daylight. Time had literally frozen, too. It came to a standstill because the cheap watch I was wearing had stopped working around 4:40 a.m. It just couldn't operate in such cold weather. As a result, the encouragement that came from checking the time and anxiously awaiting the sun's first rays was sadly lost. As the pain began to set in, I thought about abandoning my tree stand and leaving. It was only 5:30 a.m., I guess. However, I couldn't do it. I didn't dare take the risk of the Williamsons seeing me drive away and turning their sacrifices into worthless efforts. Also, I couldn't go back to the car, start it up, get warm, and then return to the stand. I knew I would never be able to find it again. I was stuck. I wiggled my toes and fingers inside my boots and gloves. I tried flexing different muscles and then relaxing them to create some movement in order to warm myself. Nothing seemed to work. Very simply, I was freezing to death. All my burial would be to milk me and pour me into a jar. After all these years, I have never experienced a more painful battle with cold weather than I was having that morning. I'm not sure how I survived to see it, but finally the sun began to peek over the ridge. It was a welcome sight. Around 6:45, I guessed. I was standing in a spotlight of sun rays. Even though it was slight, I could feel their warmth. It gave me enough hope to press on. By 7:30, I guessed, I was able to think rationally once again, and I began to recall my purpose for being there. Suddenly, I heard a twig snap. I could feel the adrenaline start to flow. A bead of perspiration formed on my brow. This was it. Somehow I knew the twin brother to the buck Annie's brother had taken was coming up the ridgeline. Slowly, I felt for the hammer of the lever action 33 that I gripped in my hands. As I prepared for a shot, I mentally began to rehearse the speech I would give at the local hunting club, since I would probably receive an award for the biggest rack. Suddenly, out of the midst came the source of the noise, walking right up to my tree stand, my trophy, looked up to me and said, "Seen anything this morning? Sorry to bother you. Guess I'll be going now." What a brutal addition to the discomfort I had endured already. As the unwelcome intruder crunched away in the frozen leaves, I honestly thought of firing a few angry rounds at his feet just to watch him dance. Instead, I exercised self-control and simply wished that the fleas of 1,000 camels would infest his hunting coat. He must have been very mad. My sacrifice of sleep and comfort yielded nothing that cold and miserable day in the way of table meat. What's worse, I had involved others in the losses. I will forever appreciate Annie's brother's willingness to guide me that cold morning to the tree stand, but I will always regret appearing so selfish as to arrive at such an ungodly hour on a day so brutally cold that even the watchdogs were not fool enough to leave their warm beds to bark at my car as I drove up the driveway. The, incon- the inconveniences and discomfort that I put my future in-laws through that morning years ago were significant. However, they are small scale when compared to the sacrifices I have been known to require of those now closest to me. I speak of my wife and children. Through time and tears, I have thankfully learned that it is unwise and dangerous to drag them into an unbridled and relentless pursuit of the whitetail. If I'm not careful to keep things in balance, I will drown out their appreciation and approval of my interest in hunting. How many of us have knowingly left behind dear widows and orphans for the sake of a hunt? Have we, in our untamed enthusiasm for a close encounter with a whitetail, allowed our families to experience the loss of emotional rest, mental comfort, precious time with their husbands and fathers, or wives and mothers, and even the loss of limited financial resources? That's the problem I have. Deer hunting becomes very expensive, especially when you don't have a lot of money. It is indeed a temptation that is hard to resist. Perhaps some of us, however, have felt the bitter cold wind of the potential loneliness that would result in having awakened in time to the need to make that critical adjustment to our outdoor lifestyle. Those who have done so know that it is not by any means an easy change to make. I have decided that my wife and children are as much more important than any animal or any fish or a golf ball or a job or any other pursuit that would require too much of their lives. By the grace of God, this hunter has come to grips with the fact that while getting close to a whitetail buck is an incredible challenge, which I enjoy with a passion, a much greater challenge is to see how far away from a deer I can get when I realize that pursuing it is costing my family too much. For a hunter, that is the ultimate sacrifice. Wow. He really knows how to paint a picture, doesn't he? Look, this is, I told y'all in the last video that he draws little pictures to go with it. That's the picture that went with this Wits of Days chapter. And I might be able to get to a video tomorrow, but I'm going to be visiting my mom tomorrow night. I'm very excited. I haven't seen her since Christmas, and I miss her a lot, and I can't wait. I'm excited. So I might be able to, if they go to bed early or something, I might try and squeeze in a video of chapter 3. If not, I probably won't be making a video Saturday because we'll be on our way back home Saturday night for church on Sunday. but I might be able to get to the video on Sunday. If not, it'll be Monday. On Monday, I have a doctor's appointment to about my mental health. So wish me luck on that. Pray for us to have a safe trip tomorrow. I would like to end this video with a prayer, everybody. So if you're watching, maybe bow your heads or just listen. Oh, Father in heaven, if there are any hunters under the sound of my voice, please let them know that their families love them and appreciate them. Please let their families be glad that their husbands or wives or sons or daughters enjoy an activity such as hunting instead of something as partying or partaking in drugs and alcohol. But please let the hunters know when it's time to take a break and spend time with their families. You can't spend all your time in the woods. You're not a wild animal. They're not a wild animal. I don't know why I said that like that. But, Lord, please keep all those hunters safe when hunting season comes back around, and help every one of them to get a big buck or a nice fat squirrel or whatever their game is. And help them put some meat on their tables. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Everybody have a good night. Bye, y'all.